Hi, it's me. I didn't know what this was here. I thought my piece of my hair was sticking out, but it's actually just a shadow. Hi, again, how are you? We are back with this beautiful flower border, and we're going to continue into this kind of investigation, I suppose, and talk through of this discussion of physical evidence with alien contact. And I was looking in this book here as like because it is 10:03 p.m. um at some of her experiences. Like, I was very excited to find Elena Danaan. I can even post a picture of when I first bought her book. It wasn't too much longer, maybe a year after she had put this out. But I was very excited with this information. And like I said, I started to, again, like with David Wilcock's work, find similarities that was going on with me. So she talks about here on page 14, she was 9 years old. Her grandmother stated to have UFO encounters. But it says here that she woke up in the morning with a huge pain. So again, we are focusing on points that indicate what I'm talking about, that there is this great aspect of the spiritual life and the physical life and how it has to do with dreaming. Again, sometimes with spiritual surgery, which has to do with these beings of the spiritual realm that are doctors. They may not look like traditional doctors, but a lot of alien abduction cases. Is that you, buddy? Oh, it is you. Salem's under the chair. His tail was tickling me. Okay. A lot of alien abduction cases, you'll see that they do appear to look like doctors. Yes, this is spiritual surgery. A lot of things must be taken care of in the spiritual realm before they manifest into the material, into your physical body, okay? Used many experiences like that. Like, one time a guy said that he was abducted by aliens and they cleaned out his lungs for lung cancer. Okay? Stuff like this. Okay, so where was it here? Said I awoke from a real, very real feeling dream. I should have, yeah. 3 years later, on page 23, 3 years later, when I was 16, I had a very vivid dream, in quotation marks. And again, it does occur when you go to sleep, your spirit body traveling. It does feel very real. This is part of your life. I've read in my esoteric studies that some people believe this is their real life, that they choose to live life this way. This might be what's going on for Elena. And it's not just about being delusional. I mean, they literally choose to focus on that one half of life as their main focus. You know, that this part here is the dream of their physical life, and that is her real life. That's her waking reality for her. See, like with David Wilcock's book, Awakening in the Dream. So really, this part is the dream for her, and her not real life, and this part of the spiritual is her real life for her. Okay? Again, in my own personal feelings, thoughts, and opinions based on the information that I've come across, my own experiences, okay? So, through every single dream I had in winter of 1987, I could feel a presence trying to communicate with me. It was very vivid, and I could clearly feel the difference of intensity emanating from this presence attempting to contact me. Yeah. So it does happen in the spiritual realm in your spiritual body. I collapsed into sleep, she says on page 27. I recovered consciousness within the settings of an informal dream when I sensed again the same mysterious presence approaching. This time, it reached out to me and made contact. Now, I've had similar experiences. The last time I can remember, someone was covering my eyes like this, though, and there were people standing in front of me. And I'm going to show you something that's very similar between something that Elena Danaan shows with these friendly looking EBEs, which I've also had an encounter. I have this little helper being in my spiritual life called EB, which I have some drawings of. Okay. But this is where she first encounters Thorhan. And as you can see here, in the picture, she's even in her night clothes. And like I said, you go to bed in the night clothes, right? Or, well, unfortunately, if you're naked, like in my case, I'm not trying to be a pervert, this is true, then you wake up naked wherever you are, even if it's in the middle of a battle. And there's more examples of this here in her book. Here she's in her bed with literally a pillow and blanket. And like I said, it feels very real. And can these two things merge? I believe that it's very, very, very possible. That's the page 23, which is like a very vivid dream. And then even when she's here, she's in her little night dress. You see? Again here, little night dress. And, so let me just show you what I get this over with here. Where's the little fella? There he is. So this very much looks like Evie, and she said that this one was friendly. Now look at him. Okay. Ouch. It's not very comfortable to sit with crossed legs on this chair. And now I will show you my little Evie. And again, in a little blue suit. Here he is here. Little Evie. Okay. And then look at this one. A whole bunch of them. See? Okay, so I knew that there were these things in common. And I knew that I had like I said with the spirit phone, that I had this contact while I was in dreamland. And it would be like there was a man's voice, be authoritative sounding, but it was almost like, how when they're flying planes, instead of saying M, they'll say Martha. So for T, tango, things like this. There was a string of words that this person would say. They didn't make sense. Butterfly, hot dog, banana, and not hot dog isn't like code word for like any of the pedo stuff, not like that. Random words, unicorn, purple, macaroni. And I would become conscious. I would have a conversation on the spirit phone. The phone would ring in my dream. Have a conversation on the spirit phone. And I've talked about this before, where people in my life have contacted me this way. Like one soul contacting another, my birth mother as an example. Okay? And it turns out that she did want to talk to me. I've talked about this before. She expressed that. I answered the phone in my dream. But that one with the military type, that's different. I don't feel it has to do with the government, but it may have to do with what they term as secret space program stuff. See what I'm saying? Not the bullshit, but the real secrecy of it. Because, of course, the government knows that this stuff is going on. What they can do about it, I don't know. Because they can't pinpoint when it's going to happen. That's the thing. That's what I'm saying. There's no reason why Thorhan hasn't or cannot teleport there, give Elena a great big kiss, be like, ha, see, she was right, just rub it right in, I don't even care. Even if he's not like that, fine. But, and then pop back out. So I showed you with the blue suits. Now I want to show you something else. Okay, here's the drawing where I expressed, where I saw my hands in the lucid dream hallway where I was conscious. I didn't know if I was in my body or not. Okay. Couldn't tell. I was like, oh my God, where am I? Where have I gone? Okay. It is a very real feeling. So sex, intercourse, feels the same. It feels great. It's amazing. And she even says, Marlene Marie Druhan in this book here, that, it's a lot safer. You don't have to worry about STDs. You don't have to worry about getting pregnant, Not that she's encouraging promiscuity or anything. She explains it very well. And like we were saying, that I ended off one of the videos about ancient India's buildings, how they were, a little sexual. Well, the sexual energy has pretty much always been the same. It may have been stored at different chakra levels, but, that is one way to generate energy and exchange it between two people. Yeah. So the thing about it is that I had an experience once which repeated quite a bit. And it was about this evacuation type of thing. Now, I always thought it was from Mars. Funny enough, it connects with Claudio Nocelli's information, where he says there was an evacuation on Mars, except they self-deleted. They blew themselves up. I'm pretty sure that's what I said. But they definitely decided to end themselves rather than be taken over by the custodians. When I was a little girl, I saw on TV, I was at my grandma's, it was around, I don't know, in the 90s at some time. It was because they had sent those probes to Mars, remember? Phobos, or no. They had those special probes, and they had gotten there around the 90s, and they were talking about it on the news. And when I saw this, and they were talking about Mars, I thought everybody would know this, okay? But I turned around and I told my family, I was like, hey, there used to be people on Mars, but they blew themselves up. I said that specifically. I did not know exactly all that entailed, but when I read that information from Claudio, it really hit me emotionally, intuitively, that's what it was. That's what I meant, that they blew themselves up, I just knew this. And of course, my family laughed and said I should write stories, but I just knew. And so it caused me a lot of distress. It's not his fault or anything, but for some reason, his work affects me in a different way than other things have. So I don't know. But this is fact, okay? And I do express that here in some drawings in my book with Black Puma Lady, where it's this recurring dream that I had. And I remember it while I was awake and played over in my mind and wonder what it was about, I'm not going to get into the whole experience, because the one thing about this experience is that I've talked about this before. I'm just getting really tired, so I'm trying to get through this. But this evacuation, okay, I'll just tell you. So I find myself lucid and conscious, but I'm in the arms of this woman like this. Okay. But at the time, I didn't know what I was. It's like a crystal. Okay. A little crystal that I've drawn there. I thought maybe I was a baby at first because she was holding me like this and so close to her, such a precious thing. And I could feel her feelings and almost hear her thoughts, that it was imperative that we escape and that she gets me out of there and that they escape this, what's going to happen. That there was an evacuation. She needed to get out of there and evacuate. It was important, that at all costs that she brings me with her. And then I was inside of this thing. Again, at first I wasn't sure when I was younger. And then I realized that, because, okay, so you can see here that she's running towards this football shaped craft. And this is what would happen. She would be running and running, and I was in her arms. I didn't notice anything except for the ground almost looked like, the Nazca lines where it's like, it looks like sand, but it's almost been highly heated, so it's turned hard. Kind of like that with dust on it a little bit. That's what the ground looked like. It wasn't sand. And it was hard, but not concrete. Like I try and describe it to the exact as I'm seeing it. Looked like sand, but hardened, so that it felt hard to run on. Like it wasn't normal sand like at the beach anymore. Okay, something different about it. Anyway, so she runs down towards this craft. As she approaches it, there's no door. It just goes whoop and opens automatically, almost if it can sense the presence. It's almost like, you couldn't see your reflection exactly, but it's like mirror, like silver. And like as I'm looking at it, kind of the shape of a football as we're approaching. But depending on its shape, to see it on top of the thing, like a top view, it might be different, right? But it had this kind of shape like this, like a football, to look on it sideways, yeah? Like that and like that. And so she approaches that, she gets in, the steps are there, walks up. And so I have this diagram here because I seen it. I can still see and everything out of this crystal. Okay, where am I? Over here is where she enters. She comes in here, up here, and sets me right on the counter. Right there. So I can see what's in these cupboards over here. It's got like that privacy kind of waviness glass, but you can still see there's stuff in there. Maybe some plates, maybe some towels. You can still see there's a little bit of stuff in there, okay? Can't tell what it is though. There's more cupboards right here, okay? And again, here I am underneath these cupboards. I can see them above me, right? It looks exactly the same like these ones over here. So there's a divider wall right here, right? These beds aren't standing up. I just had a hard time with like the layout. They're down this way. But there's 2 single beds with pillows, okay? And I could see it because I could still see where I am right here? I could still see right here. So I couldn't, of course, I'm assuming there was pillows, okay? But you could see like all the way up. There was like a bump where the blankets were, I swear. You could see. So I could see these. I could see down here, but I couldn't see down this hallway. Or no, it goes up this way. This hallway here. I don't know where she went. So she drops me off here. She goes down this way, past this light on the wall. It's like a long this way. Long this way, yellow light on the wall. Like a pleasantly yellow, not annoying. And she disappears up this hallway here. See where I put that directional arrow? And disappears up this way. So I don't know where she went to. But there's these 2 beds here. So I always thought maybe if there are even these interdimensionals, they still sleep. Or breakaway civilization, solar beings, humans from the past, they still sleep. So they're still taking part in spirit realm activities. Wouldn't you assume so? I do. Right? So that's, I mean, they would have beds in there for not only for rest, but what if it's for more than that? You see? That they're still doing this. I mean, they're not removed from the spirit realm. Not really. Not even if you put spirit matter together. I mean, I would assume that you can still die, especially if they can, like with David Wilcock's example with Black Jesus, they chopped his body right to pieces. I'm sure you could die, but then he says that he teleports, puts himself back together. But okay, but let's just say, all right, I don't know, unless it does make you immortal. I don't know. I don't want to go too far ahead of myself, but I did want to show you these things. Okay. That, this was something very prevalent all through my life. I mean, it eventually stopped, especially when I realized that there was something important about it. And this is when I realized, again, that these beings can also turn into animals. Because I first met this lady, she was a black puma, like a black panther. So they can change in animals. Again, they say this about the jinn with the Muslim religion in the Quran, yeah? That's what the jinn can do. They can also turn into animals. But I think it's a play on words. You see, not only the spirit realm. I mean, I think that they think that maybe a cat will go outside and then come back and it's a jinn. I don't think this is definitely not what I'm talking about. Like spirits changing into animals. This is prevalent throughout lots of different cultures, where even in indigenous tribes they'll see certain animals and know that its consciousness is more. And they'll say, like, that's a spirit of the forest. Yeah? So, we're showing you that, okay? And again, with the blue suits, all right? Of course, I'm wearing one, but I've seen these other people. Now, I can't exactly. I remember one of these fellows was stocky, like kind of like looking like Thorhan, but also could have been one of the ancient peoples. Don't know. But he was large and broad shouldered, kind of a muscular fella. Again, I'm not attracted to him. I'm just giving you what he looks like. But this time, they were not in the blue suit. I've seen him in the blue suit. He was dressed in regular clothing. The setting was, because I was really not in a good place with the culling. It was really bothering me, and I'd pretty much gone insane with it. Kind of off the rail in a sense. Like I was getting sick, and this man walked into the room, and it was a setting where it kind of looked like a doctor's office, but not a medical doctor, almost like a counselor. There was a desk that went this way and that way, and there was a chair here. He was probably about, I don't know, 10 to 15 feet in front of me. Wasn't too close, because they do realize that I'm kind of, nervous, apprehensive around people. It doesn't matter where from. This is why a lot of the times they would turn into animals, because of the life that I've had, so they knew that I had more of a bond with animals than with people, because I've had such terrible experiences. Yes? CPTSD is like that. You will struggle with a connection with people because of, the trauma that has occurred. But he had sat down in that chair, and he basically just sat there and looked up at me and said, "Well, you've gone insane." Just like that. And I explained this in the story before, that if he had went blah, 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 all and on, explain all this stuff, because I'm intuitive and I feel a lot, I would have been just like, get to the point. So that's exactly what he did. And I looked at him, And I was like, yes, I know. Can we fix it? And so after that, we focused on fixing it. And this is how I've come to this much of an understanding. It kind of reset me back on the path. And I believe that it was after that I found Claudio Nocelli's work. I found the answer. Remember that? Yeah. I mean, even though I still worried about the calling in that sense, I had come into a different kind of understanding with that, because I know I made one more video after that where I was like, I'm going to talk about the calling one more time and that's it. But yeah, it pretty much went like that. I don't think we're going to get to talking about the part with Claudio tonight with the astral travel and different things with that. The astral dream wizard. But we will get there. So let's just finish up here. Um, She talks about how there was a farmer visibly annoyed. Something's going on with the field. Yeah. He was convinced the neighbor's tractor had massacred his crop by amenity during the night. The little boy came and said his dad was mad. Let's just see here a second. Well, I mean, she's claiming that there is this physical evidence in her story. Okay, so I fell backwards very fast and landed in my body like a wet sponge. This was my first recollection of astral travel and him. So she says that it was always physical, never astral. But she talks about astral travel right here. So you did. He invited me to the edge of the clouds where I could see my home town from above. This vision freaked me out. It's not a vision, you were in your spirit body. I grabbed his waist and cried. I didn't want to go back, but he looked at me seriously and gently laid a hand on my forehead. A wave of warm energy poured from his palm, and despite my resistance, dizziness seized me and I fell backwards very fast. Well, yeah, because when you go back in to your body, it is like that. Think about the times when you go to sleep and then you have that sensation of falling off somewhere and you wake yourself up and scare the shit out of yourself. That's similar. Okay, sometimes when you snap back from your dreams and your spirit body travel too quickly, you sometimes will feel dizzy and sometimes even vomit. I knew that was a thing. I know this is bizarre, but when I was watching the Doctor Strange with the Multiverse of Madness, and he wakes up from being traveling throughout the multiverse and vomits. Well, that's happened to me before. Vertigo is part of it as well, because you're also adjusting to different densities and dimensions. Okay, I've experienced this as well. Okay, but she says here, I fell backwards very fast and landed in my body like a wet sponge. This was my first recollection of astral travel and him. So, I mean, She was conscious that her physical body was still on her bed down below on the ground. I could see myself as translucent. Yes, you were in your spirit body during this journey. How intriguing and disturbing at the same time. Well, it is something that's pretty cool to discover, and sometimes it can be a little scary, sure. To observe that my body was luminous on its edges and slightly translucent, but physical when I squeezed my own arm. Yes, it feels exactly the same as when you're physical body. That's why the lovemaking is so great. And other things, eating and running or flying or whatever. Just because I haven't done that in such a long time, you see. It's the first thing that comes to mind. Forgive me. Let's see. Translucent. How intriguing and disturbing at the same time. To observe my body, blah, 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 blah. Physical when I squeezed my own arm. I couldn't feel anything under my feet, as it seemed I was just walking on the clouds under a magnificent starry sky. Well, yes. I couldn't feel any air coming into my lungs, although I was breathing. Well, yes, because you still technically are breathing in your physical body and all that still, but you're not going to feel that in your spiritual vessel, your spirit body. Although I was breathing, and I could feel my long hair was brushed by a gentle breeze. Yes, the spiritual etheric air. And all was so silent. It was a weird silence. Well, it's a peaceful silence. And I mean, you don't have your regular senses anymore. That's why telepathy is used in this type of communication. So there is a silence, like if I had cotton in my ears. Yes, because your ears no longer work. You're not going to have your auditory senses. Your spirit body has a whole other set of senses. The vision ahead of me, she says, struck me with astonishment, but no fear. A metallic discoidal spaceship was there. A tall man dressed in white clothes appeared in front of me as he came down the ramp of the ship. He was magnificent. At the time I thought he was an angel, despite he had no wings. Well, they'll feel like that. Higher dimensionals technically are angels. More fallen ones. His skin was pale, he had blonde wavy hair, and his eyes were blue and wider than normal, with a strange metallic spark. Fae. Possibly. Fairy. Like actually like of the fairy realm, like in dimensional beings, could be. I often thought that. I made we'll look at that in a moment. Thought he was an angel with a metallic spark. He and said to her I needed to live for a determined time on earth in order to fulfill a mission. Yeah. So, like I said, after she passes, this will be like her heaven with this and this world, this inner universe that she's created so in depth that she will transition into this, or into her spiritual life here, and this will be her eternity. Yeah. Let's see. See my home from above. This vision freaked me out. I grabbed his waist. She said, and she cried. I didn't want to go back, but he looked at me seriously and gently. Okay, and then she goes back into her body. And on page 19 says, this was my first recollection of astral travel and of him. So they weren't always physical. She says, never astral travel. Okay, she said that. So I'm confused now. Okay. All right. Though every single dream I had in winter of 1987, I could feel a presence trying to communicate with me. So, I mean, you're talking all about dreams and astral travel. But then in this new article, it's pushed so forcefully that it's always been physical. Teleportation, communication. Well, which is it? Page 27. 1 year ago, I remember having a vivid dream, and it seemed even more disturbingly real than the previous times because the physical senses were extremely real. Yes, well, they will feel very real. Like I said, I could feel the arrows going into me, but they just weren't that deep, and it wasn't like as painful as I'm sure it is in real life, but I could still feel ka-tunk and like, ah. It wasn't actual pain, it was just kind of annoying. There were so many arrows. It was like getting hit with a bunch of like laser tag, you know what I mean? But like a ton of them. But it was arrows. Oh, all on my back of my neck. It feels real. I mean, it didn't feel like pain like you would feel with real arrows hitting you, but okay, so she's expressing it a lot here. And again, so yeah, she's dreaming again. There was a great dynamic atmospheric energy in this ship and him, of course, my mysterious friend and protector, the one with shoulder length, wavy blonde hair and magnificent clear blue eyes. Were wearing shiny pale blue uniforms, the blue suits, yeah. This time, I remember his name for the first time, Thoran. It's not the same spelling of Thorhan, but maybe that's just how it came through for her, like Azura Asura, right? But I couldn't recall our whole conversation, which is common. I've experienced this. So I can remember the joy, atmosphere, and his excitement inviting me to try one of our pilot seats. So again, you can see that she's in some type of night dress type of thing. Those are actually really comfortable to wear. So, some of you get silky ones, and sometimes they're like made of cotton or whatever. But it talks about, okay, she introduces Valnek here, which would be this Thorhan's best friend. And so the thing about this is, though, okay, because we're going to wrap up here in a minute, but the thing about this is eventually it spills into your real life. So it does have this spiritual realm thing. It's almost like when you reach a certain stage within your development in soul school with this spirit realm stuff, it starts to merge into your physical life. Like I said, with that craft showing up for me in 2017, it came into Claudio's life, 2016, stuff started happening for him. So, I mean, there are these physical things that do end up happening. But for her to say that it was never astral and there was never this lucid dream type of thing with the spirit realm connection, it's just not true. I mean, she said so in her book so many times here. I don't know. I could have been more prepared to detail how many times she's clearly had some trauma in her life. She says, in 1996, life in Paris was harsh. I was struggling to make a living between part time jobs in cosmetics, a work in a dance company, and studying archaeology at the Louvre University. Yeah, I think that's what it is. I was 26 years old and willingly single, not finding men in general to be much of a fulfilling company. My father had just been shot dead in Marseille, sorry, I can't pronounce French words. And I also had to rescue my younger sister from the grip of a psychopath. So her sister was in a terrible relationship. Things weren't going very good. But like, even when these things are happening in our life, we have our spiritual life. Hmm. Well, I mean, they are dreams. She said something about this implant thing, which I really, with feeling and thought and all the research that I've done, indicating that all of this is done with our pineal gland. I mean, could there have been something other put into her? I mean, there are possibilities, but all the things that she claims it can do, your pineal gland is very capable of doing, okay? So I never heard his voice again speaking this vividly in my ear until many years later. But by then I had confronted to admit the truth. These dreams, all these years, had never been dreams. Well, they're technically not. They're not something that's your subconscious, like playing out your daily thoughts and desires or whatever. It is something much more than just a dream. That's for sure. But you are going in your spirit body, and I'm sure that dimensionally they may be able to go into this fourth dimension spirit realm type of in between place and meet you there, kind of pick you up that way. As probably most of these alien abduction type scenarios happen, they come through the fourth dimension, the in between space of communication, which is, I know this is quite long. I did not expect this. I almost turned right to the page and kept going. Come on. Oh, goodness. One more time. Right. The fourth dimension, the fourth spiritual dimension, vibrational state, vibration again, this is with the David M. Masters again. These helped me so much to understand about how this was all working, right? Between the fourth and the fifth. So, the fourth spiritual dimension, vibrational state, is what I lightly refer to as the state of confusion, or like in between, not knowing whether to go left and right, in a way of like meaning confusion. So, in between. It is a mysterious plane of existence closest to ours, and it is the vibration where the human spirit realm exists. This includes our ability to increase our growing ability to raise our vibration through various methods to visit the fourth dimension. So, a lot of your spiritual training happens in the in between. Even when we're in the third dimension, you're still dealing with the fourth when you're dealing with the spirit realm. So, okay, through various methods. Okay, so the reason I refer to it as a state of confusion is because it is the dimension that the human spirit can be regulated to following death, commonly referred to as ghosts, or transitions through between here and third density in the afterlife. So basically, what this is saying is that the soul goes through training. A lot of people have experienced this in different degrees, okay? Tests and stuff, which I have explained in some of my experiences, like with the ABC room. That one there, I know that sounds funny as a title, happened when I was very young, and it has to do with all these blocks and stuff and having to intuitively feel what was in these pits. It was also a psychic thing, like a clairvoyancy type of thing, to see where my spirit body was at. Even when I was really young. And a lot of people are just born this way, you know? So when it says it can be regulated, it's talking, and I'm getting the feeling that it has to do with the ninefold constitution of man, that 333 thing. Remember, all those things have to be unified. It's talking about this. That happens there too. Rudolf Steiner's work also talks about this. And it has this thing, like I said, where it happens in the spirit, like the subconscious becoming conscious. The same thing. It's almost like that video where I showed you the Dragonzord coming up out of the water. Water has to do with the what's unconscious underneath that can't be seen. Yes, rising up, making the unconscious conscious, okay? Like she was having this realization that maybe they weren't just dreams after all, and they're not. They're not. It's a huge part of life that we're missing here. Okay. So it has to do with your afterlife. So the third dimension and the afterlife, it is very much connected to that. It is also the vibrational plane that is used by intelligences from other dimensions to interact with us in the third dimension. And where two-way communication can take place between spirits, like I was talking about. Some people's passed on loved ones will come visit them in their dreams. It's not a dream. You're having this experience in your spirit body. Okay? So, it could be that this has physically spilled over into her life physically. But again, I'm going to say one last time, if it truly has, where is the actual physical evidence? Like I've said multiple times, this wouldn't be as difficult as they make it seem. And I myself have, prayed, hoped, manifested, sent a spirit gram many times to, have that ship return, that I could get it on camera. I'd even run out there with my computer and film it, and hopefully it shows up, with the lighting and everything. That's the only thing I could hope to do at this point, because my cell phone wouldn't even pick it up. I got one and then it just sucks. But, I do realize that you don't have much control over it, and you can't tell them what to do, right? But if she has all of this communication and teleportation and physical experiences, there has to be some physical evidence. That's really what people need. We need that now. So not a fingerprint, not a hair, not a Polaroid, nothing. There's just some contradictory things. And I'm not the only one that has noticed them. Because at one time she said she could take a picture, and then another time she can't. One time she said you can't wear fake fingernails because they will like melt off or not come through or whatever. So, I guess I'm feeling like maybe pretending to be more than you are. That's the feeling of it. I guess example of this would be like naming yourself ambassador or emissary, right? Mm. So I hope that I have explained that enough, that it doesn't make sense that she says it's never astral, but your book says otherwise. So, I mean, all I'm trying to do here is say that other people are experiencing this too. Now, I agree with her. To what degree, we don't know, because there is so much trickery, bullshit, and some beings are just bored. They are. So they'll communicate with someone and just mess around, just for fun. They haven't got anything to do other than that, for real. So, last but not least, I know I made everybody wait a really long time for this. Maybe people just don't care. Or if they do, and if I have made you wait, I apologize, but we're going to go and look at that evidence from Peter Khoury now. We're going to hear what he has to say about the results. If you want to watch the whole thing, I already did a video on this, which is the one we're going to look at. And I will let you know how long ago that occurred, but it wasn't within the last few months or anything. So, and this really put things into perspective for me because this fella actually has a hair. It indicates ancient human, unknown human specimen, but nothing that we have here, ancient human. It would be so much different from ours. We wouldn't really have that in our DNA database to compare it to, especially if it is some type of hybrid race. And they could very well be breeding with interdimensionals and different types of beings like this. Oh, right. I remembered about the elemental thing. So I talked about the salamanders being beings of fire. Remember I talked about the earth beings? This is a symbol, I believe, for the earth. It's the downward triangle here with the line through it. Yeah. So, and the gnomes, or these would be beings of the earth, they live underground, right? The Greys are said to live underground. I talked about this in the exposing aliens. So there's a lot of similarities to say that they are elementals, nature spirits of the earth, and that's the symbol for earth. I had that picture tagged. And again, so we have the salamander type, and this is the upward triangle is actually the symbol for fire. Okay? So I've gone over this a lot, but there is a picture here where her buddies have these water orbs. And I think it's like Thorhan and Valnek. I don't know for sure. Just let me pause, let me find it. Okay. So I found it here. You see? See, he's got this little orb. Not sure if that's life force energy, but it looks like water or air, like an element, yeah? And she says over here, even the Sidhe, Sidhe. Now, I do not believe that these are aliens like she suggests. I just don't feel this is true. The Sidhe are actually like a royal line of the Fae, like I talked about. But I don't think these are alien. I believe that a lot of these beings are only alien to us, as in foreign and unknown, because we forgot them. And they might be presenting themselves as aliens to maybe give us some kind of incentive to make us care. Because there's been many misunderstandings and there's been a lot of war within the elemental realms, but between nature and humans. Remember, at one time, the civilizations worked with nature, not against it, as we do today. Okay, so she does, and I mean, this is pretty cool, but you know, it's creative. All the neighbors are yelling and screaming, and the dogs are barking. Forgive me. Serpent cult of human and reptilian collaborators. See, Naga means wise one. We talked about this before. So I don't know, you guys. It's strange. And with all of this stuff that's happened before, it just makes you wonder, like, what's true and what's not. And that's the problem. That's why I said what we really need now is for these beings to speak the truth or speak for themselves and speak the truth, but are they going to? And which ones are these ones that are, I just can't be sure. I haven't, excuse me, I haven't experienced any more of it for myself as of yet. But we can clearly acknowledge the fact that there has been astral travel here, there has been spirit body travel here, and I don't know why she would deny that. You know, this makes it accessible to other people. I wonder if that might be a problem for her. So I don't know, because like this is a creative, really cool creation. Just like Star Trek and all of that is a creation. And there is some information in here if you know what to look for. This fella here has the Ouroboros, the Naga warrior. But that's the thing. Even in the Initiates of the Flame, it says that this is the two life forces united, like heart and mind united. You know? So I don't know if it was like just going along with a lot of the lore to like. I'm just not sure. I mean, it is a very good creation. Kind of linking all the information that's online. Like a lot of these I had spotted in the Russian Book of Alien Races. They have been kind of repeated. Oh, I'm getting all stuffed up so the windows are closed. But yeah. So I'm just I don't know. Have to say, like, it is a good creation, but I get this feeling there's just something not entirely right. And the one thing about this Council of Five, Council of Nine, Rudolf Steiner's work also mentions a Council of Nine, but it is a spiritual hierarchy thing. So, hierarchy thing. So, I don't know about this. Like, there are people who are really good at mapping and knowing star systems and stuff and being into that type of thing. So I'm gonna have to add on the last part with Peter Khoury and his evidence. I just really wanted to make this one last thorough video about this. I really break down all the elementals in that video that can be seen on Rumble. Um, I mean, it really helps for people to see that, Khoury says that he's never been to space, not to hurt the man. It's to help prove what I'm saying here is true. And I don't know why he wouldn't want, he even teaches in his Ascension work classes about the higher and lower dimensional. So I don't know why he wouldn't want people to even know this. This is what would truly help. But again, it comes down to the money part. It really does. It really, really does. It does something to people, honestly. Okay, so I'm gonna have to. There's that little EB fella, like an Eben, she calls it here. You see, with these little spheres. Now that sphere thing, always in my lucid dreams, even during awake astral travel, that is like a little AI. It can communicate it's like an orb. I gave it a name, I call it Cosmos, because that's something endearing to me as a character from a video game. But these orb things are interactive. Sometimes it just follows me around. So, like I'm saying, I've seen an EB, of course, comes as like this little helper fella. And so the orb, it's almost like a surveillance system. It can be used for that. Not in a creepy way, almost like in a protection way as well. See that little orb? Seeing those silver spheres. That's why I got so excited about that bugosphere. And she debunks this. But from the research and findings of that thing, because it smokes, gave off smoke, right? When they poured water on it. I'm getting very tired, so I'm going to wrap this up. Um, Sound waves and liquid mercury would cause this. It wasn't hot, you could touch it, made the guy feel ill. High frequency sound waves can do this, hence like direct energy weapons and stuff like this, okay? And I made that discovery in there, and that is a lot like these spheres. But those ones seem a lot less controlled. That's the thing. Almost like it seems almost like a toy version of the real thing almost. So I don't know, but it's real. I cover that in my ancient civilization series as well, I believe, where I talk about that because of its connection with the liquid mercury. I researched that, what can cause this smoking reaction? Well, liquid mercury and these high frequency sound waves. So it's just like, maybe anything that gets any bigger than what she has to say she doesn't like. I don't know. A lot of these people do struggle with the ego. I know maybe some would think this about me. Maybe it is my ego that's holding me back from reaching, because like I said, I'm over analyzing it. I suppose I've made have mistakes and followed the wrong people. I think it is my inner system trying to prevent more pain. Hmm. So I'm gonna have to stop this recording. It's already gone over. Oh, can I keep? No, it only records for 60 minutes. Yeah, that's right. And then you have to start. Um, it won't let me edit it any further. I'll have to re-put it all together. Sorry, I didn't mean to blather on. But look, I hope you can understand why this has been so close to my heart. It's been a great part of my life, even though I've met a lot of different beings. Couldn't tell you who they were, what they looked like, because it was more of an exchange in consciousness and understanding. Kind of thought they were aliens because they wanted to know what it was like to be human. Didn't exactly take into consideration that it just might be something like, fairy or gnome or one of the other creations of the divine creator in that sense. But I can understand how these things develop. I've said before that feeling and thinking it's aliens that are on a planet that's billions of light years away kind of feels safer in the beginning. Well, it's like, yeah, there might be aliens, but they're so far away you don't need to worry about it. You know what I mean? So there is this kind of blossoming process, like this acceptance or understanding, you know? Not everybody will see it as brothers and sisters of the divine creator at first, you know? And secondly, it is also a habitat for fourth to sixth density occupants. Hmm. So extra dimensional collective cell of 12 high density races. Hmm. It's still so bizarre to call them aliens for me. Extra dimensional. Okay. So, like the fourth and sixth dimension? Hmm. I don't know, you guys. I would say it's kind of similar. It says, Mars or Tyr, whatever she calls it, was besieged so many times in the past, destroyed and ripped off from its atmosphere by insanely ferocious conflicts. The most violent offensive was the destruction of the nearby fourth planet Janos by the Maitre, wiping out all life on Tyr. Techno Terran space cloud uh, well, it doesn't mention that at one time they all self-deleted instead of giving way to these custodian type or dark fleet as she'd call it or whatever, you know. Terrorism sieged. I don't know. I think just by observing like what they have shown us, um, well, she does mention by the Anunnaki that they were attacked by the Anunnaki. The first populated by the Nur colony, they were attacked by the Anunnaki. So, but it doesn't say, so it's not like their information matches, you know. But like I'm saying, like I'm very sure, like he shows you with the eye on Claudio's work there. It's his inner universe. It doesn't mean that, I mean, like I said, we're all different. We're going to experience it differently. hmm Parallel to this, on the fifth and sixth dimensional planes, the Benevolent Council of Five runs a huge facility. So, yeah, the fifth and sixth dimension. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to end this off by saying that I'm going to leave it open to the benefit of doubt and say that there's most likely something that I have yet to experience. And I can't say more because I haven't experienced it yet. So, there has been astral travel and lucid dreaming connection. So, it's not like I'm not, I don't have anything here because I definitely do. I know and I can feel it. Like I said, I'm almost like on this threshold in this doorway of entering something new in my life. And it's actually a new moon, I think today. Um, this brings new and fresh energies and stuff like that. But I can feel this. So maybe I knew it would happen one day, but maybe I will get to experience this kind of a thing soon. You know? Who knows? I always said I hoped that they would pop in here on one of my live streams and have something to say, even, you know? That would be quite a surprise. It'd be pretty cool, right? Yeah. All right, so let me just finish this up, save this video. It's almost 11:15. We'll just hear, it's only going to be a few minutes to hear Peter Khoury say the results of the DNA. And then we will wrap this up because I am very tired. I'm probably just going to have a little snack because I'm a little hungry. And then I'm going to go to bed after that. But I do hope that you've enjoyed hearing my thoughts and feelings and, making these connections between things. And I do feel that it is all very valid, I mean, a big part of me was hoping that Claudio would come out and talk about these types of things, that it's extraordinary. It's not that it doesn't matter or it's invalid. It's extraordinary as it is, and for her and for Elena rather to dismiss that it's never been astral travel. Well, it has, and she said so. The drawings express it this way as well. With the night clothes saying about the dreaming, we've just gone over it all. So it's conflicting and it's confusing. And I wonder if even her herself is frustrated over the fact that she cannot provide evidence. But again, is she caught up in this character that she's created? Like her name is Helena, not Elena. She's got like this pen name sort of thing going on. Her last name isn't Danaan. That's something I believe Zachariah Delaporte or whatever it was. It says so on her website. So this is kind of like, like a writer's name. Authors do that all the time. I hope Claudio didn't. That's such a nice name. But yeah, they do this. They will use a fake name. So, I mean, maybe it's this type of persona that she's created around her information, because once she said, and I believe her, well, she has to sell books. Well, maybe this is one reason or one way how. Yeah. Kind of takes away of the true specialness of it, Yeah. Because then people will be like, well, I'm not being picked up by aliens. And this is where the confusion came in when I was hearing stories about the secret space program, like with Khoury Good, and then seeing the behavior of people like Khoury Good and Emery Smith and being like, I'm not sure. At first I didn't understand because I knew that I was having these similar experiences, especially with some of the testing that I was going through with, different fighting scenarios and stuff like that to test my skills and abilities. But yeah, strange stuff. So it's not that this is all mental illness and all made up. What kind of muddies the water with it a little bit is the stuff that they have done to kind of stay on top of things, like to remain in power or to hang on to the power that they have attained with some of the stories that they've shared previously. I'm reminded again of that video that I did about if we don't learn from the past, we're doomed to repeat it, where I talked about some of the things that, Helena Blavatsky had done that were, unsavory, to say least, I guess you call it, kind of paying someone to throw a message through the train window at a certain time and making it seem like it was these guardians or whatever she was talking to. Yeah. Some people get pretty desperate. Desperate times call for desperate measures, I guess. But yeah, those things occur. And I wonder if those things are repeating in a certain way. Do you see what I'm saying? I have a feeling it might be. And that's a big problem, you know? I think that was Michael Sala's beef with the Galactic Federation. Like, so much talk, no walk. Like, why haven't they actually shown up or done anything and had this big thing? You see what I'm saying? And I think that's what had him questioning things. So then he went to go to talk to other people and it just pissed Elena right off. So, peculiar. It's just not the behavior of Christ consciousness. To be reasonable and fair and try your best, not freak out and block them on Twitter or X or whatever it is. I think there are many people who feel it just like I do. It's not trying to destroy her. We all want to get to the bottom of this collectively. I think really and feel that it's not just me. There are many that want this. And if we were to work together, like how I'm connecting, what Amy Eskridge said with these ancient humans, and yes, there is very, very much validity to that, which I've traced it back, using even experiments that people have done today with liquid mercury and magnets, even water and magnets. Yeah, very interesting stuff. And I'm sure that they could have figured this out a long time ago as well in past civilizations. These people were not stupid. Not at all. In fact, they were a lot more advanced than this. So that's why it's an advanced civilization. But they were ancient people like us, but just from a different time. Okay. So again, I'm going to stop this video and we're going to move right in to the Peter Khoury evidence. And then I'm done. My throat is killing me, but I really enjoyed doing this. Really enjoyed talking about this. Get this all off my chest. And then again, on another day, couple days, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the astral stuff with Claudio, even though I kind of already discussed a lot of it now. He's, very gifted spiritually. I felt that right from the get-go. There was something about that map, but it was more so the power of the creator behind it. So he is a very gifted navigator or traveler that has been to a lot of these different realms. I believe that. The stuff about Helen Morris meeting him in a warehouse and showing him a map, not sure. But I will give him the benefit of doubt. Like, I'm not going to say straight out that I don't believe it. Sorry, I believe elements of it, that's for sure. Like his dream, where he was said to meet at this hotel, but the Men in Black thing in that story is totally weird. Very generic Men in Black encounter where they're like, we advise you not to do that. We wouldn't do that if I were you, kind of thing. Which doesn't make it seem very believable with respect. Sorry. There's a few things. But, like I said, with the Helen thing, with the colors and stuff, I'm sure he finds it difficult to explain. It would be dimensionally phasing in from one dimensional space to the other. This would happen. It has to do with the light spectrum. This is why the colors and blah, 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 blah. So, yeah. So I know went over before. So these things did make sense. True. But we shall see. Because, Well, we will discuss that on another day. Oh God, he's doing the Mr. Beast face. Like, you know how I just have to tell you. You know, I always said that I'll never be one of those person that like people that has my content with like my thumbnail. And I know this is how people get attention. I know how the algorithm works. I'm not dumb, but I cannot do it. Okay? Claudio has this picture of himself and he's like pointing at his own map like, you will never, ever, ever. I cannot. Look at my content. You know these people that do that? Oh, hell. Okay, and with that, I'm going to wrap this up and move on to Peter Khoury so I can have a snack and go to bed. hmm He did this. I don't know if he's playing, if this is a joke. Maybe it was an experiment to see if it would work. I don't know. Okay. Thank you for being here. We will be right back.